Thanks everybody for joining us today. We've got a few people still logging in and we'll get started momentarily. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jeff Fugit. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Lexbe, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Joining me will be Frank Krafka. Frank is an eDiscovery Solutions Director. He will be walking you through the Lexbe eDiscovery platform. Frank has over 15 years of eDiscovery experience, so you'll be in great hands with Frank. And before I turn it over to Frank, I've got a few slides that I'm going to walk through to talk to some of the underlying architecture of the platform and some of the benefits of the platform that you won't necessarily see directly in the demonstration. So for more than 12 years, law firms and other organizations engaged in complex litigation have really relied on Lexbe for on-demand, cloud-based eDiscovery software and services. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Lexbe's been designated by industry analysts and the media as the industry's most affordable and full-featured DIY eDiscovery platform. And that DIY element's important. I'll elaborate on that as well, and Frank will touch on that as well when he's going through the demonstration about how easy it is to use the platform and the interface. We're also the industry's fastest eDiscovery processing and document review software. We deliver the industry's fastest return on investment, and that was feedback that we received from G2 Crowd, and they did a survey earlier this year on eDiscovery return on investment, and I'll elaborate on that briefly as well. And then we also have a team of experienced eDiscovery specialists and expert consultants that are standing by to assist clients on a moment's notice if they need anything. In terms of the fastest ROI, this shows the G2 Crowd survey results from March of this year. We received the highest marks in the industry, and we deliver the industry's best return on investment with all clients receiving an ROI within 6 months or less. We also have the industry's fastest deployments with 60% being less than 1 day. Now, the reason we deliver that return on investment has a lot to do with our approach to eDiscovery and being able to equip our clients to perform all eDiscovery tasks DIY. So you don't have to outsource it. You don't have to go to the expense of hiring expensive consultants or project managers. From an eDiscovery standpoint, you can equip your staff and yourself with the ability to perform, from document ingestion all the way through to production, all the steps in between. We equip you with that, and we enable you to do that. Today, in the environment that we have, where we've seen, if you look at industry reports over the past 10 years specifically, you've seen a decline in billable hours for law firms. Well, Lexbe clients are actually able to reverse some of that by using that DIY functionality of the eDiscovery platform and using internal staff versus having to outsource. So that's really where a lot of that return on investment comes from. In terms of the growth of ESI, we're seeing that we've experienced this firsthand over the past 12 years. And the great thing about Lexbe is it's virtually infinitely scalable. and I'll step through how that architecture works and why that's important. But it's more than just the growth of the ESI, as you see on this curve, and we're looking at 160 zettabytes by 2025. But there's also fragmentation there. So you've got a bunch of other emerging platforms, emerging forms of communication like Slack. You've got a multitude of apps that enable instant messaging and group chat capabilities. All of those are contributing to this, and all of these are also increasing the complexity of capturing that ESI and reviewing that ESI as it pertains to litigation. And Lexbe helps you solve for that. So we're infinitely scalable. We exist in the cloud. We're at Amazon Web Services. But because of that, we're able to auto-sense the size of a job and then scale, meaning we can assign the number of servers required to get your documents processed faster and get you from document ingestion to review faster than anybody else, and then also get your productions out the door faster than anybody else. So that scalable capability can really be an advantage when you're dealing with document-intensive cases. You can see this example. We have 1 terabyte to process to TIFF. If you look at a traditional in-house setup, you have 10 dedicated servers operating at 2 gigs per day. When you think about that too, you think about the cost of supporting that and supporting the servers, the maintenance, the software that goes on there. Really, the cloud is such an exponentially more cost-effective approach to this because you eliminate the majority of those expenses. But we're able to scale, and so that 1 terabyte to process to TIFF, you could have 500 on-demand servers operating at 2 gigs a day, and that processing gets completed within a day. So that's the comparison. So it's really on demand. You have the ability to scale up or scale down as needed. We also have very advanced security. So when you look at us versus maybe doing something on-site or in-house, all our servers are constantly updated. The latest patches are always deployed. We have the highest level of security, and we actually exist in a data center where there's a lot of government deployments as well. So the NSA and the FBI and others actually have data in the same data center. So it's highly, highly secure. And your data is encrypted in transit and at rest. And then we have access controls and comprehensive activity logs. You can password protect elements of the production. You can password protect a briefcase, and Frank will walk you through some of that. Also, not all clouds are created equal. This is Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Cloud Infrastructure as a Service worldwide, and as you see, Amazon Web Services is by and far the leader in that category. We've had, over the past 3 years, I think we've had 0 unplanned downtime. I know definitely over the past 2 years we've had 0 unplanned downtime. And so it's robust, it's high availability, and it performs exceptionally well. And then I also mentioned briefly before, we have this team of eDiscovery experts. They're on demand, so in the event that you do need assistance with a matter, they're standing by to help. All of them are ACID certified, and they perform document loads for customers that are in subscription plans. That comes with the plan, and then we can also scale with the needs of your practice. The other thing that you won't necessarily see in the demo today is our ability to handle, all the file types that you're looking at. When you have ESI coming in from sources like Slack or other instant messaging platforms, or you have Mac OS or iOS files, being able to get those processed and get them through so you can review them quickly is really important. The good thing about it is we're able to do that for you for Slack messages. We've got a solution where you're able to view that dialogue in a single pane and see uh, who's involved in those group communications, and you're able to search on those. It's really powerful. In terms of Mac files and iOS files, you see a lot of those devices being adopted by larger enterprises. So Apple's done a good job of gaining market share with large enterprises. So you see more and more of those. So we process keynote numbers and pages. We can handle all these file types and help you get to reviewing the SI that you need to for your matters. Another thing that's not readily visible in the demonstration is the Lexbe Uber index. So we extract native characters from the documents. We also automatically OCR the documents and extract the OCR characters. Also, any images, those are OCR'd, so we extract those characters. And then if you need your documents translated, we've got a machine translation engine too, and those characters will also be incorporated into the index. So all of those are incorporated into the index and concatenated so that you've got the largest searchable data set available to you. The reason we do this is because extracting the native characters allows you to identify evidence from documents where perhaps the characters were white. So if they went through and if the characters were white and they're on a white background and it went through an OCR process, those aren't going to get picked up. But by extracting those native characters, we're able to capture those characters, and now they're searchable. If you have hidden fields or hidden sheets in an Excel spreadsheet, same type of scenario. We extract all those native characters, so now they're searchable within your case and within your document set. Same thing from an OCR standpoint. Sometimes there'll be charts that are images or graphs that are images and other things where there are characters embedded in those, and it's important that those are searchable because it certainly could be evidentiary. We're able to capture that, incorporated that in there. And the translated characters, you can search in English or you can search in whatever language, and those documents are going to be searchable and come up. So if you search in either language, those documents will then be returned. And then lastly, it's highly affordable. So we have a flexible month-to-month plan that starts at $25 per gig per month. There are no user fees, no case fees. And then we have discounted subscription plans that dramatically decrease that per gig rate from 25 down to sub $10 per gig, depending upon the amount of data and the length of term that you have. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Frank Krafka here in 1 second. The one last thing that I have to ask you is for your participation in a couple of brief polling questions to set the stage for Frank. And the first one is, are you currently evaluating eDiscovery platforms for a current case or future case? All right, go ahead and close that poll. And then the next question that we have is, what areas of eDiscovery are you interested in learning more about? And while you're answering that, I'll put in a quick plug for a webinar program. If you haven't attended our webinars in the past, they're very popular. We recently did one on mastering the document-intensive case, and it's a blueprint for the boutique firm. And we've got another one coming up on technology-assisted review. All right, looks like the answers are about done. Okay, I'll go ahead and close that poll. All right, well, thank you very much, and I'll now turn it over to Frank Krafka.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome to everybody, and thanks for joining us today for the Lexbe demo. Like Jeff said, I will go ahead and take you through a high-level demo of the Lexbe platform. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to get those answered. Again, I am Frank Krafka, and I am eDiscovery Solutions Director here at Lexbe. You should all be able to see the Lexbe platform now. We wanted it to be very intuitive, and we wanted it to be easy to get into for people who like to do eDiscovery themselves. You can see the landing page. It shows you cases. Across the top, the radio buttons or the buttons, the drop-down menus will be how you interact with the platform itself. And so if you spend any time on the web, moving through web pages, this should be a very comfortable feel for you. Just to let you know that our servers reside out at the Amazon Web Services facility right outside DC. We do protect your data with 256-bit encryption, both up and down, and they are always practicing proactive intrusion monitoring, and the facility does meet its latest ISO standards. So your data is secure in the facility, and again, it is a web-based platform. So what that means to you is we are platform agnostic. A benefit of that is you can be a PC shop, you can be a Mac shop. As long as you have internet connection, you can access your data. I do have clients that will use their tablets, either their iPad or their tablet. And I also have clients that in an emergency use their cell phone. So I've got a smaller screen cell phone, but the newer iPhones and Samsungs that have the larger displays, you can access your data if it's an emergency and you need to get to it. You could access it from those phones also. So we'll go ahead and we'll dive right in. What you're looking at, again, is the landing page when you sign into Lexbe. You notice I have two cases here. Lexbe is not a platform that bills you for cases and or for users. So there are no fees. You could have one case in the system, or you could have 50 cases in the system, and you could have one user in the system, and you could have 100 users or 100 users, and there is no additional fee. We will select a case. Speaking of fee, we are gigabyte based, so we are charging you basically on the gigabyte housed in the platform. When you do pick a case, you can see it's going to drop you into the browse screen. And what that shows you real quick, it just shows you your data universe. You can see right here that my data universe right now is 24,474 docs. If I wanted to start review, I could dive in right away and start clicking on these hot links. These are the documents. There are some options along the left that we'll go over in a second, but this is the left side. The menu is going to be how you interact with the data on the center and right of your screen. So, Jeff had mentioned that we are do-it-yourself built, and the easiest thing to show is how do you get data up into our platform. So to do that, we would slide over to case and add case documents. Again, we wanted to be very intuitive and very easy to use, so we created the basic drag and drop. So once you get in here, you notice that it is batches that we load by, and you would click on upload. And it's going to ask you for some information, but this stuff, you're going to give it a batch title, your doc source. If you have a custodian, you could even name that now so that you can tie that information to the custodian. And then you would go ahead and you can hit next. You see here, perform OCR on PDFs is checked. You want to leave that checked unless you're working with OCR documents already. But what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to, on ingestion, like Jeff said, we're going to go ahead and turn your documents into searchable PDFs, and then we drop that into what we call our Uber index. And basically what that is we're going to take that native text extraction. We're going to take all the OCR text, any metadata that we extracted also, as well as translated text, and we're going to drop that into a single database, and that's going to let you pull back the most information as possible in a search. So you're going to be able to search through your information and get to that needle in the haystack just a lot quicker than you would on some other platforms. So again, this is how you would enter or add your documents to a case. Basically, you can either choose drill down to a file. So if it's on a hard drive or if it's on a USB key, you could drill to it, select that, open it up, and it's going to go ahead and break it into 2 megabyte chunks, and it will push to our servers from your location. Another way to get data into the system is if you have a PST or a file containing or a folder containing loose files, you can just drag and drop, and it will also break those up into 2 megabyte chunks and push that up to our servers. So the caveat to that is data size and bandwidth, right? So what I tell my clients is if you're going to push more than 10 gig of data and you're not comfortable with your bandwidth, please let us know, and we can go ahead and set up a secure FTP, or you can send us the data, and that will get, it'll get your data up, and you won't be restricted by the bandwidth that you have from your office connecting to the internet. So that's pretty much adding data. Like I said, it's pretty intuitive, drag and drop, so we wanted you to be able to get into it and move through it quickly. Once you add the data, you're going to want to search it. So those two tabs, the search and browse, that's where a majority of your reviewers are going to spend their time. The other buttons and drop downs, that's going to be for people who are going to do more management. You can see here there's case assessment, which is going to be your reporting, your case notes, your facts and issues. I can add custodians. On the far end, you've got your admin. You can check your cases. If you have multiple accounts, you can look at that here. But here's where you would manage your users, manage your cases, create your custom fields and tags, set up review batches. So depending on your role in the platform, you'll have access to different things, and that will allow you to do certain things. So you can set user levels if you want someone to just be a reviewer and not be able to delete or tag. You could have them set up for just review, and so it depends on what their needs will be. So we'll click on Browse, and you can see on the Browse again, this is your data universe. It's got the left side, which is going to be the interaction with this data. You can select folders. 24,000 docs is quite a bit to go through. So you have the ability to select filters here, and you can filter based on date, start date, master date. You can filter on custodians. If you move further down, there's metadata, there's tags. You can see here you can filter on certain tags, filter on who has reviewed. Here's your metadata. And then finally, you can filter on the custom tags that you've added and tag those documents. So that's a way to help reduce that 24,000. You can change the fields that you have, and the fields you see across the top here. And again, my screen may look different than another reviewer's based on the information that I want to see. You can also limit this so that everybody's looks the same, that you can add fields. But just remember, the fields that you have across the top are going to show up in the reports that you do. When I export documents to Excel, those fields across the top will be populated in that Excel. So if I wanted to select fields, I could do that here. Here are my customs. You can see I mainly use metadata in review. I want to know who it's from, who it went to, subject. So that's what I have checked. You can add author. You can add modified dates. You could add any base numbers, see if it has notes. So the information you can get up front here is MD5 hash. Once you select that will alter. Again, I go with the metadata. On the left, you can also see that I can go ahead and I can delete docs from this point if I have permissions. I can export to an Excel and to a briefcase, and we'll discuss that briefcase here a little further on when we get to a production. and then I can add documents to a production and review set. So I could, again, in the browse, dive right in and start moving through documents. I don't use this screen much. I prefer the search. And what you'll see when you use search, the main difference is going to be that it gives you the tabs. So I'm going to start using my keywords. And then on the left, the differences here would be I've got modifiers and I've got searches, right, that I've done. And then below that, it's the same as what you saw in the browse, where I can select folders and filters. I do like using search terms, and an example is I've got a client that was doing a overtime class action, and so he put his keywords in or his search terms, and then by using filters, we were able to remove any data that was from 9 to 5. So we only wanted to capture after hours, weekends, and holidays. And by using the search terms and then using filters, we were able to get that narrowed down, get him to his needle in the haystack, quicker than normal. So these are the searches I've done recently. The pinned and shared searches, what those are searches I want to save. If I save it by clicking on edit, and you can come in and you can see here shared and pinned. I could change the name here, and depending on what I want to do with it, if I click on shared, other people who have access to the case can see it. If I just want to pin it, then only I can see that search. So if I'm developing a search and I don't want other people to use it just yet, I would click on pinned. It would show up here, and then I can come back to it. When you're done tagging, you'll have that created, and you'll create so you can come back and run your production. But we'll go ahead and we'll click on a search that we've done, and you can see just by using Boolean search, it's dropped the $24,000 to 261. And I can search against these words, the words in this bar, multiple ways. I can do a Boolean. I can search against all of the words, any of the words, or it can be an exact phrase. And by altering those, you'll alter the number that is produced to you here for review. And then I've got my modifiers. So a concept search is basically like at the source. It's going to look for words that have the same meaning. Your fuzzy search is going to capture those misspellings. And then if it during OCR it might have blurred a character, it should capture that. Your stemming and phonics. Stemming is going to look at the root word, and then it's going to look at the suffix and prefix and add those. And then phonic goes through and looks for words that sound the same. One thing I do want to let you know is when you run a search and you've done your ingestion, you've got a translated documents, and we're seeing actually quite a bit of Chinese and Russian nowadays. When I do a search, if I put a foreign word in, it will pull back the foreign word and it will pull back the translated English version. So again, we're trying to get you to that needle in the haystack as quick as possible. You're now ready to dive in, right? So we've run our search. We've got our 261 docs. You can either narrow it down from here, but you're ready to dive in if you'd like to look at the documents that you've pulled back. So we'll click on a document here. And again, being web-based, I kind of like it. I've got multiple monitors. So if you have multiple monitors, I can grab a tab just like I could doing the internet, and you can see I've moved this off to my monitor. I've got one on the right, so I've slid it off, and now I can have my document open, and I can have my search here. So I can move through the platform. Like as you go down, I'm going to show you tags. If I wanted to add a tag, I could come in here and just add my tag, but keep my document open so that I can continue review. Or I could have multiple docs open on multiple screens. So again, we wanted to be intuitive, we wanted to be easy to use, and we wanted to get you to the information that you need as quick as possible. What you're looking at here, this is our review panel. Okay, so on the left side, all these are your views of the document in Lexbe. And on the right side, this is how you're going to interact with the document that you're viewing. So one of my favorite views is the hits view. And as you can see, it gives you quite a bit of information. It's going to highlight the search word, and it's going to give you the page number. You can see I've got links to either the text version, and I've got links to the page version of the document. You can see page 4, page 5. What I like about it is you've got the highlighted word, and it gives you context around that word. So I can come in, I can look at my my search terms, and then I get some context, and that context is going to allow me to hopefully look and say, okay, yeah, I need to dig deeper into this document, or maybe I can slide this, just tag it for later review if I need to come back. But it's the context that I find very important with just that view. Then you've got the original. The original is basically going to open the native, so it's going to look to open that file in the format of the file. So if it's a PowerPoint or an Excel, when I click on original, it's gonna, if you look down here, it's gonna ask you to open. This is actually a Word doc. It's gonna ask you to open that document in Word. Um, you can see that popping up now. You've got your HTML view, your searchable PDFs. You've got a PDF view, and this one I use, but not as often as I do the page. In the PDF view, what you're going to get is you're going to have to scroll down to get to the bottom of that PDF. I like the page view because I can go through and I can pick a page. Right here, it's page 1. I can drop down, go to page 2, go to page 19 if I want. So I can move through this document a lot quicker than I could if I had to scroll to the base. Here's our text view. That Word document opened here. That's the native. So we've got the text that gives you the highlighted. And then if I produce a doc or have it translated, they would show up here. I also have a redacted and annotated view. Now, the redacted view, redactions are done in platform, so you don't have to actually do a redaction and then load it in. You're going to handle that here in the platform. And what we've done is you can see the redactions that you've done. And if you want, you can go back to the PDF and you can look at the PDF to see what you've actually redacted. Same with annotations. That's going to let you see what you've annotated. So we keep all the views together, and that just gives you the ability to move between them quickly and make sure you have all the information in a place that you can access quickly. So once we get over to the right, now we're going to start to interact with that document. You can see here the first button is going to give me just general information. I've got a doc ID. This is an ID number that's assigned by Lexbe on ingestion. If I do have an issue with this document, I could go ahead, send this off to tech support, professional services, and they can find this doc a lot quicker with that number. But it gives me a lot of general information on this button. It gives me Bates, it gives me custodian, source path. You'll see under general, it's got coding. Now these are codes that are going to go, and these are hard coded because they're going to be used across all your matters, and that's going to be things like responsive, attorney-client privilege, attorney-work product. It's also showing me that I have reviewed the doc, and I can also see now that someone else has also. So this is all good information that you want to have to make your review a lot easier. Any metadata that we do pull, if it's on the document, it will reside here so that you can see that. You can also come in, and if you have to add metadata, you can go ahead and add the information here if you've got it. But the most important thing on this section right here is the tags. These are custom tags that I can create. We suggest, I tell my clients that you want to create these as you start, before you start a review, so that you can come in and you can just tag your document, hit save, and move on to the next document. So again, it's very quick. If I want to add a tag though, I can, because I've got these tabs, I can just slide this over. If I have to add one now, I could come in, go to manage custom docs, and I can add a tag, right? So this is something that you can do fairly quick. You can add a checkbox, you can add a text field. So if I want them to have to write a tag or fill something in, I can have it that way. But it's as quick as adding a selection. If I wanted to add to a current selection, I could do that, and we'll just add another dollar amount, and we hit OK, and then you're ready to go back to that document. Again, I suggest to all my clients that they go ahead and they do the tags before, just like facts and issues. I'll show you that here in a second. We want to get that done before so that we can move through the documents super quick. But there you can see I've added my tag, and it was pretty quick, and I'm ready to move on now. The next radial over, or the next button over, is going to be where I do my redactions, right? So I can go ahead, I can open the redaction editor, I I can make my redactions, save it, and it updates again in the platform, so that I don't have to move out of the platform. I can stay in the platform to get my review done quicker. Um, Something I'm going to show you now, I think is extremely useful for attorneys. And paralegals alike, it's a notes section. So what I'm basically doing is I can leave notes on a document here by title, by page, if I wanted to, and these stay with that document or are tied to the document until you delete the document. And what I'm seeing a lot of my clients use this for is for depositions. So they'll write their question into a note, and then when they're ready to go into depot, they're not bringing an Excel sheet and stacks of paper. They come in, and these notes are searchable, so they can come into analysis, head over to case notes, and you can see here I've got my notes. As long as I give it a good title and a good description, I can see here's my note. My question would be in here, but the powerful thing about it is I've got my supporting documentation tied to that note, so I don't have to have a stack of papers anymore. I can come in, read through my questions. If I need to hit my supporting documentation, I can do that here, and that just makes it a lot more efficient when you are doing a deposition like that. Another important thing in the platform is facts and issues, and I think this is underutilized by some of my clients, but this is a good way to show important information and how those documents exist with each other inside your data universe, right? So you could add, and again, you can add your facts and issues as you work through your review. We suggest that you add them at the beginning so that it is something that starts to flow very quick and allows you to move through your documents without having to go back and forth. But once you add this, you can add it a fact. And then if I come here, and this is where this becomes a powerful tool in use with your notes, is you can see my facts and issues. You can see how now it is grouping those emails together, and it is building a timeline out for me. So this becomes a powerful tool to see how your data coincides and intersects and interacts with each other in that data universe. It'll start to put those by date into groups, and it builds out your timeline here. So very useful tool, as well as the case notes. You'll tend to use that quite a bit once you get comfortable with it, and it is something that you do fairly quick. We get to the final tab or final drop down on the review panel, and that's your related. And what your related is going to show you is it's going to show you relationships of the emails, right? So it's going to show me my email family, which is extremely important. You can see the parent and the children. The reason why I like this here is because I don't have to, depending on how I filter my search, if I filter it on a different field, this won't necessarily show me parent, child, child, but this is going to show me that relationship here, and I could jump between the parent and the children as I need to from here. You'll also see your email threads, right? So that's going to be your conversation. You'll capture the back and forth email, and then if I kick it off to someone else, you'll be able to see in the threading. You don't see any exact duplicates here. The way Lexbe handles the duplicates is on ingestion. We go ahead and we tag those as dupes, and then we suppress them. So you can see them if you need to, but those are suppressed. And what I normally tell my clients, since we are a gigabyte-based platform, I tell my clients most of the time to, if they don't need them, to save the duplicates off onto a hard drive. We send that back to you because you do want to maintain that pristine copy of the database. But you also, on a gigabyte-based platform, you want to use that space for non-dupes, right? There are other ways to use that space than to have it hold your duplicates. You'll have your near dupes show up here also, and this is a way to look at things. An example of a near dupe would be if I've got a contract that's been signed, it would capture the same version of that contract without the signature. It may have been where someone added notes to that. So it'll start to pick those up. It'll capture the the one-off if we're in an email conversation and I decide to drop you and add someone else will capture that. So the related tab is a way to just see how your data coexist with each other, and it lets you see your families a lot easier and a lot quicker. One thing I will say is there are two buttons here. There's Auto Advance and there's Propagate Coding. And Auto Advance, pretty basic. Once I save the document, it's going to push me to the next document. Propagate Coding, extremely important. What this means is how I code the parent, how I tag this parent is how it's going to tag the children. So there are going to be some times where you don't necessarily need that code to propagate down through the family. If you have a financial doc, it may be coded different than an email that it's with. So you could easily uncheck propagate coding, and now I am responsible to code the parent and the children in this email family. Again, you can put that back on, and it's going to tag the children as it tags the parent. So that's Lexbe's review. One thing I did want to point out is our help and our support buttons here. If I click on help, it's going to go ahead and it's going to take me to the help section in our manuals. Takes me to the section that I'm on in the platform. So if I'm in the doc viewer, it takes me to doc viewer. If I'm in search, it's going to take me to the search area. Now I can look for any other area I want just by typing in what I'm looking for. But it tries to guide you to the area where you are and get you that information as quick as possible. We have the support. When I click on support, that actually takes me away from the platform. But on the support page, I can enter in a ticket. I can enter a chat. I can reach out to my professional services team member. And the reason I bring this up is Lexbe is web-based, which is kind of nice. And one of the things that really drew me to it was our personnel, right? People are always asking what differentiates Lexbe from others in the field. And I feel that the professional services team that Lexbe has assembled is an extremely important part to our platform, and it's a part that will benefit your law firm greatly as you get to know them and use them more. We went and we hired ex-litigation paralegals. So every account is given a professional services team member to support their account, and I think that's just a huge benefit when you've got ex-litigation paralegal who understands how the courts work, how firms work in your field of practice. They may not know your day-to-day workings in your firm necessarily, but as you work with them, they begin to pick that up, and they become to anticipate the needs of your paralegals and of your attorneys. So I think that is a huge differentiator for Lexbe and the clients that interact a lot with those professional services support team. Find them to be a huge benefit. So we've done review. We're ready to go ahead and we're ready to produce documents to opposing counsel, right? So we again wanted to be very intuitive on that. And so we come over to Discovery and we want to run a production job. So when we get in here, we can either add documents to an existing job by hitting the drop down, or we can go ahead and start a new job, give it a title, and then hit create. And now we can come in and we can go ahead and we can set up that production run. So you can see here I can add a title. I can go ahead and put any comments right here that I want. One thing here you see under shared, there's a password and there's a date and time. This allows you to assign a password to that production link and a date so that it'll expire. So it gives you more security on that than just having a secure link that's set up to expire, in 24 or 48 hours. This will give you a date you can add if you wanted to give your receiver more time to access that file. You can see here's where you're going to add your Bates numbers. You're going to add your any custom designations. One thing I do want to point out is your production type. Right here you can see standard. We have two types of productions with Lexbe. We have standard and then we have standard plus TIFF. Our standard production is PDF only. The reason why we did that is we're seeing that more people are moving away from TIFF images. One, they just take up a lot of space, and they're milliseconds, but they're a little longer to produce. Um, but we're seeing more that in a gigabyte based system, those images take up a lot more space, using up more gigabytes. So we do have a standard PDF production, and you can get your TIFFs and your images. You just need to request those by clicking that production. Underneath there, we added this for a client who was ordered by the court that they needed to produce native emails. We don't suggest that. That's why we put a warning here. But if I needed to, I could. And then you come down and you hit update, and now I'm ready to add to that production. So we jump over to search. We've tagged the documents that we want to move out. So I could come in, I would have my tag saved or my search saved with the documents I need to produce. It'll bring it up, and then I have the option to select all of those docs, the page, or I can come in and I can select just a few. We'll go ahead and we'll take the whole page. Then I scroll down, and I'm going to add these docs to a production, and it's going to be 11/14/2018. And you can see here I've selected 25 docs. It tells me the families also, so I'm going to actually add 93 documents to this production. I'll go ahead and do that now. Come back to the production job. And when I bring it up, what you'll notice is you'll go ahead and you'll see that the docs that are about to be produced are 91. Two of those were either privileged or work product, and there's my total docs, right? So there's the 25 docs that expanded out to 93 to capture families. Only 91 of those will be produced to opposing counsel because two of those fall under privilege or work product. So I'm ready to run production, but the first thing we did was we went ahead and we built in a kind of a QA step just to make sure you get one more look at your documentation. We have to validate first. So what validation is going to do is it's going to ask me to look at email families. It's going to ask me to look at the tags that I've got, the page counts, and as I go through, it may say right here, you've got 5 emails that look like they should be responsive. Do you want to add those to expand your responsive set or no? And so then I can look at each one of those emails and decide, do I want to add it to my responsive set, or do I want to go ahead and just kick it out and move on to my next privileged, work product, page count. Once I hit validate, I can return to production job, and you can see now I'm ready to run production. So that's going to go off. It's going to do its thing. One thing Jeff mentioned in the beginning was that we have unlimited scalability, and so the way our servers are tracking is they're looking for capacity, and when capacity reaches a certain threshold, we spin up additional servers. So we are moving quite a bit of data through the system every day, and it's not a first in, first out. It is as jobs come in, our servers spin up, and we move your data out as quick as possible. I did want to mention we do have briefcases. So there are multiple ways to get data to opposing counsel or to someone who does not have access to your database, or you don't want to give them access to your Lexbe account. You could actually select documents and add them to a briefcase. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and create a secure link. You can add that link to an email, send it over to either an expert witness or opposing counsel, and that's going to give them access to the data that you selected, whether it be 1 email or 5 emails, without actually having to give them access to the entire account. Other things that you'll see in Lexbe are reporting. We do have reports built in. You can also customize reports if you wanted to. You can see it's pretty simple to add custodians. Again, case notes, facts and issues, your search and browse tab, that'll be where your reviewers spend most of their time. Your discovery tab is going to include the batches, building or production. It's going to also, as you produce docs and tag docs, your privilege log gets built out, and then it's got management. You can manage passwords. You can manage folders, create custom tags, and then for the admin who is running your instance of Lexbe, you can go ahead and manage users, cases, review sets. And, it's one of those where Lexbe, again, is intuitive. We want it to be easy to use. We have clients with 1 gig in the system up to multiple terabyte. We have the professional support team there to make sure that if you run into an issue, you have someone to call. And I appreciate your time, and that is Lexbe. If you want a more in-depth demo, one of us eDiscovery Solutions directors would be happy to set that up for you, answer more of your questions, and take you into a deeper dive. Again, thank you for joining us on this demo, and I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon.